And that's hugely important. He's the only candidate to do that. And it's a brave stand, and it's a proper stand, and this state doesn't correct its ways if we don't reverse the trend within state Medicaid. You know, when you look at Carl Paladino, you say, well, he's got all these ideas that are great. He made a few maybe mistakes that some of us maybe sometimes roll our eyes at. A lot of the reason for that is he's not a career politician. You know, unlike, say, John F. Kennedy, this is not a man who at the age of 16 was being told by his parents that he was going to be the next governor of New York. And like I said, I don't think he ever imagined that he would be here today. But consistent with that, he recognizes that no member of the legislature in Albany should be making a career of elected politics, and he has supported an 8-year term limit for elected state officials in Albany. He's, again, the only candidate to endorse that, and that's important for this Tea Party movement. Politics, as our founding fathers properly announced and properly reflected in their own behavior, was not intended to be a lifelong profession. And yet, of course, in Washington and in Albany, that's precisely what these men have done, and it's a big part of the problem. Consistent with that, he's also insisted that this is a 6-month part-time job, and the level of benefits and pensions that are associated with service in state government are outrageous. And they're outrageous to unemployed and hardworking Americans who don't have those levels of benefits and are working 40-hour and more work weeks for 12 years. 12 months a year. He has said, and he's right about this, that state legislators in Albany need to either put in a full year's work or sacrifice the benefits that are associated with full-time employment because they are not full-time employees. Core, you know, I really appreciated the opening remarks here about the importance of education. We don't get where we're going to want to be if we're not supporting homeschooling in the state and if we're not supporting school choice. That means every school needs to be accountable to the parents and children that are involved in that community. They are not, when we allow a president of the United States to spend $60,000 a year because he's a multimillionaire to send his kids to Sidwell Friends School because he doesn't subject his kids to a public school system. That is a right that should be afforded every hardworking family in this country, and Carl Paladino supports school choice for New York families. We know that every right that is associated with our Constitution needs to be defended, sometimes even the most unpopular components of those rights. And that's where I wanted to say on the Second Amendment issues that I don't think I oversimplify when I say that Carl Paladino knows that the Second Amendment means that the American people are afforded the right to keep and bear arms. There is no footnote to that. There is no extrapolation. There is no qualification. He will defend Second Amendment rights for New York State, and he knows that gun violence in this state means taking guns out of the hands of criminals, not taking them out of the hands of law-abiding New Yorkers. On the tax issue, Carl Paladino has said, and he's right about this, taxes are too frivolously imposed on hardworking New Yorkers. He has suggested that no tax increase should be imposed on New York State without a 60% supermajority of the state legislature in New York. That's, again, a position that is not supported by his two opponents and a reason that we need Carl Paladino in Albany. He's going to require that all state legislators reveal their sources of income. You know, we all condemn the corruption that exists in Albany. We know it's bipartisan corruption. But one of the reasons that corruption has not been corrected, despite an overwhelming consensus in this state that it be corrected, is the fact that those state legislatures are deriving income from sources that are utterly unconcealed, particularly in the legal profession, where they're permitted to represent clients who have direct special needs and interests before state government, while they simultaneously pretend to represent the interests of the people that voted them there. They are entitled under this state constitution to develop and derive income from other sources, but Carl Paladino says, if you're going to do that, reveal the sources of your income so the voters can hold you accountable for the votes that you make on their behalf in Albany. That is consistent with this Tea Party movement. That too is a reason that I believe the Tea Party movement needs to be behind Carl Paladino. And finally, you know, here in New York State, you get the issue of the mosque in Manhattan. And, you know, a lot of people, even colleagues of mine have said, yeah, well, that's kind of a small issue, or it's, you know, why isn't that just a land rights issue, and why are we getting caught up in the emotion of that? Let me say, as someone who lived in New York State on 9/11, the World Trade Center and Ground Zero will forever be hallowed ground. It is the burial ground of 3,000 innocent Americans, and that area of Lower Manhattan needs to be designated and consistent with the memorial of a highly important area of this country that can never be forgotten. And that means that mosque can move 2 or 3 blocks down the road and set up shop somewhere else. There's nothing inconsistent about that. And Carl Paladino, to his credit, has said he will ensure that happens as governor of the state of New York. Let me leave you with just a few final words. First, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you as a fellow Tea Party activist. Thank you on behalf of Carl for the work that you're doing in this Tea Party movement. You are the salvation of this nation and state. Do not be deterred. Do not let them tell you that this can't be done. This is a long-range plan. You're right to focus on education. You're right to focus on the ideas. You're right to realize this is about educating a new generation of Americans to sustain the founding principles of this country. But also realize that one of the biggest decisions we make as engaged citizens is who we send to represent us. And the issue that confronts us a week from Tuesday is a hugely important one. I believe this movement, it draws its strength from God. I believe it could be a divinely inspired movement. I believe our founding fathers would be proud. They would be standing with you today. And I want to thank you for anything and everything you can do to make sure that next Tuesday is consistent with the agenda and the important objectives of this Tea Party movement. Thank you very, very much.